and they show out. Cannot wait for them. And welcome as we continue hour number 2 here on Get Up. It is a Thursday. Kevin Nagani filling in because Greeny's getting ready for the NFL draft. We got Graz. We got the Hall of Famer Michael Wilbon. We got Jordan Rogers. We also got standing by Peter Schrager and Dan Orlovsky, who's starting this program this hour wearing the sweater. We have abandoned the jacket the rest of the hour. Cannot wait to hear his thoughts moving forward without the jacket. All right, let's start the conversation with the first round and the frenzy in front of us. Peter, what are you hearing about what the Jets can do at number 2 tonight after Fernando Mendoza goes to the Raiders at 1?
Kevin, good morning. It's my favorite day of the year. It's draft day, and I don't have a draft since maybe Mac Jones versus Trey Lance, where it was still undecided who the number 2 overall or number 3 overall pick was going to be this late in the process. I say David Bailey. Dan Graziano's reporting Arvell Reese is the favorite, and that's the beauty of today for the New York Jets and their fans. It is still not a sure thing who they're taking. We do know it's going to be one of these pass rushers. In my final mock draft yesterday, I went with the same pass rusher that I've had since the first day at Combine when I reported that I thought there was going to be significant interest, David Bailey being the 2nd overall pick. Arvell Reese, though, around the league, talking to teams, there are many at other teams who believe, Schrager, you're wrong. It's actually Arvell Reese. We will only know after the pick is announced. It is kind of the beauty of tonight's NFL draft, or the frustration if you're someone like me or Graziano trying to pin this thing down.
Graz, what do you want to add here? Because you're laughing here and shaking your head.
I mean, some people say Peter's hedging. He's not hedging. He's being honest with you about what it's like to cover the draft. Sometimes the best you can do is informed speculation. Like, here's the best information I've got, and it leads me to believe it's Arvell Reese. It leads Peter to believe it's David Bailey, and there's people on. The Jets have done a great job of keeping this secret. I don't know why they have to.
That's the biggest story here. There are no leaks.
Right. Like, I don't know why they need to keep it secret, but they have. David Bailey's visit to them got canceled last week. There's various people want to read various different things into that. Doesn't mean they won't take him, but it could indicate. So, yeah, it reminds me actually of Trey Lance. In 21, I kept hearing it was Trey Lance at 3 for the Niners. Everybody was saying Mac Jones, and I chickened out at the end. Oh. And so this time I'm sticking with Arvell Reese.
All right, we've got, well, by the way, early in this show, we had Jordan talk about you got to go with Reese here, so we'll see how this plays out.
Bailey.
Bailey, sorry, he said that. Go with Bailey. Peter, take us through
he
what
wants
you're
to
hearing.
know what team he's on.
Yeah. Take us through what you're hearing about the pressure points of the draft from picks 3 to 5 right now.
Number 3 is really where it gets fascinating if you're a fan of the NFL, because we don't see running backs selected, and yet talking around the league, Jeremiyah Love seems to be the favorite to go number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals. There would be others who would say Arizona would be more than willing to trade back, and most likely that pick wouldn't be for Jeremiyah Love. It would be for someone trading up to get Arvell Reese or David Bailey, whoever the Jets don't select at 2. Arizona, one of the least, merchandise sales, least in ticket sales, and a team that has been in an NFC West that is loaded with talent and superstars. This would be more than just taking the player. This is more of drafting an identity and trying to move the needle. That is the theory around the league. One team I would notice, though, Kansas City sitting at 9, and another one, New Orleans at 8. If there are teams to move up, those are 2 that continue to be mentioned, New Orleans and Kansas City getting up to 3. The Titans at 4 are fascinating because they're sitting there and it's, all right, what's going to happen the first 3 picks? All week I've heard Sonny Styles is a possibility, or it's going to be Arvell Reese if he falls to 4, or Jeremiyah Love. But I'll give you another name that came up in the last 12 hours to me. Carnell Tate's name has now come up as a possibility for the Tennessee Titans if they wanted to go wide receiver and give Cam Ward a wide receiver option. All this to say, put on ESPN tonight because it is going to get wild in the first 5 picks of the draft because no one has this firm, and it's more speculation and expectations of what we're right now and saying one of these stars will be there. And one of these stars with a Buckeye logo might be there. And that really is Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles. But if Jeremiyah Love is sitting there at number 5, I think the Giants would think long and hard about establishing this John Harbaugh era with maybe the best player in this draft and a guy that might personify Giants football. Kevin, I cannot wait. If I feel like a little kid right now, it's because this is my day. I love the NFL draft, and I want to hear everyone's perspectives because it is wide open in 2026.
Peter, I love what you're bringing up here, a variety of places to go. Specifically, the one theme is there is no definitive number 2 guy. there's no
Peter Schrager.
definitive number 3 or number 4 guy. It depends on your board and your personnel, and something that's a little bit different from previous drafts.
Yeah, I think there is a definitive number 2 guy. I just don't think we know who it is.
Well,
the Jets do.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't think they're still waffling at this point. I think they know who they're going to take. But yeah, look, I mean, the Cardinals would like to trade down and get more picks if possible. The question becomes, what kind of deal are you willing to take? I had several people tell me yesterday that some of the trade down teams, trade down candidates, Cardinals at 3, Cleveland at 6, to some extent maybe Tennessee at 4, might have to accept a little less than what we would normally conceive of as full value because there aren't that many teams willing to trade up. So if you're the Cardinals, do you take a deal that maybe isn't what you hoped? Or do you sit there and take Jeremiah Love? That might be the question they confront. I've heard on Tennessee that it's receiver or edge rusher, but I think they'd have to take a look at Jeremiah Love if he's there. And on the Giants, I will throw one more Ohio State name in as a possibility for them at 5, Peter, and it would be the safety Caleb Downs, who I think they have a high opinion of in that building as well. So, yeah, top 5 after, well, 2 through 5,
yeah.
A lot of intrigue.
And Caleb Downs is one of those guys that on any board, he's probably the best player, and you can make the case that Jeremiah Love is the best player, just the positions that they play. I want to bring in Dan O specifically because this big discussion at running back, at 3 potentially, maybe even 4, or at 5 are all landing spots for potentially Jeremiah Love. If you're the Cardinals, what do? Do you go for a running back there, pay the premium, especially on that rookie contract?
I would prefer to trade out if I was Arizona, yes, because I do want to get more picks. But if I can't find something of good value, to Graz's point, I'm taking Jeremiah Love. And I'm so lost for the conversation of value and how much you stink. You're picking 3rd for a reason. He's a good football player. I would rather have an expensive, good football player than a cheap, average football player if I was the Cardinals. That's where I understand this value, or I understand like he plays running back. At some point, Arizona's the only reason or way they're going to get better is by getting good players. I don't think the Detroit Lions regret drafting Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't think the Atlanta Falcons regret drafting Bijan Robinson.
There's
a difference between taking a guy 3 and taking a guy 12, and the difference is the contract. Significant difference, first of all. But second of all, you're talking about
7.
You'd rather have an expensive good player versus an inexpensive average player. If you're taking Jeremiah Love at 3, you're paying him $13.1 million a year. He's the 7th highest paid running back in the league. If you're taking Arvell Reese at 3, you're paying him $13.1 million, and he's the 35th highest paid edge rusher.
But Graz, what happens if Jeremiah Love's a better player?
Right, but is Arvell Reese an average?
No, but we don't.
Your setup was great player, expensive, average player, inexpensive. What if you got a great player, inexpensive? Like that's the thing. So that's where I talk about value. This is not about Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah, if you're watching, I'm a fan. I wish you the best. I really enjoyed watching your college career. You're awesome. This isn't about the player. It's about the system and the way it is set up with slotted rookie contracts and a salary cap.
Jordan,
a dynamic, explosive running back does not solve your quarterback problem. And if the Cardinals get out of this draft and they don't have Ty Simpson, I think that's a fail for them. So if they have to take a little bit less to jump out of 3 than we're used to seeing for a team to swap in and out of there, to have a little more ammo to jump back in at some point and get Ty Simpson, I love Jordan Love, but he's not changing anything for them next year because they don't have the quarterback situation figured out. They don't have an identity on offense. And I think it would be wasting a talent like that with what you have to pay him, like Graz said.
But if you don't get Ty Simpson, so what's the door prize? I mean, the Arizona Cardinals still have to revamp that team.
Yep.
And they still have to. They're 2 very real things, and I realize how different they are. Talking about putting together a team, value through the draft, and having a franchise which is rudderless.
Yeah.
Right? And has been that. Well, how long has Larry Fitzgerald been retired now?
Yeah.
Larry's won like golf tournaments at Pebble Beach since he's played. He's been gone a long time.
So long that he's going to go to the Hall of Fame this year.
Hall of Fame, so it's been 5 or 6 years. And
His son's in college.
His son is at Notre Dame. His son's going to replace Jeremiah Love. So if you're the Cardinals, man, this is a conundrum. And I just see these as being 2 different questions. Valid. Like, no doubt they need a quarterback. But it doesn't appear, without that trade back, and even if we're just talking about the Steelers and their attraction, right, to Ty. So if they can't trade back and do this, then what?
If your goal is to make a splash and improve the Q rating of your franchise and your Arizona, and that might be a worthy goal, Jeremiah Love's probably the pick. If your goal is to build out the best possible roster with the goal of ultimately winning a championship, Jeremiah Love is a foolish pick.
Schrager, jump in.
I think there is a very real conversation we're having right now. In a vacuum, a team would never draft, if you're looking at a salary cap and the money ball and of it all, a running back third overall because of all the great points Dan Graziano is making. It fiscally makes no sense when building a team to start with a running back at third overall and not having the offensive line. Look at Ashton Genty last year with the Raiders. There's a million reasons why you wouldn't. The Arizona Cardinals have a new offensive head coach who they plucked from the Los Angeles Rams to spark some new offense. They have Trey McBride, who's a nice tight end, who had an unbelievable year last year, who nobody in America knows. And they are on the 7th game on Fox or the 8th game on CBS every Sunday in your local market. You draft Jeremiah Love, you don't only get a great player, you do move the needle just a little bit because he is that dynamic. And I do think 30 other teams, 29 other teams would say, yeah, no, we're not taking running back third overall. But for the Arizona Cardinals at this point in time, to Will Bond's point, when we're talking about Larry Fitzgerald as the most recognizable player on the Arizona Cardinals, he hasn't played in 6 years, I think there is an argument to be made that you could take Jeremiah Love and deal with the financial repercussions on the back end.
I want to bring up one other thing and a comparison here because you brought up Dano, you brought up previous running backs taken. The one thing we could use is Ashton Genty. A year ago, everybody loved Ashton Genty, and he goes top 10 to the Raiders, and then the lack of impact just because that line was dreadful, and they couldn't get consistent quarterback play. Does that concern you, Dano, on the idea that you're going to bring in a home run hitter that is Jeremiah Love, the same way Ashton Genty is, but he cannot jump off and do anything early because they have nothing else on offense?
Yeah, I like Love significantly better than I thought of Ashton Genty as a prospect, first of all, okay? Second of all, a lot went bad in Las Vegas last year. It wasn't just Ashton Genty. Yes, running backs need offensive lines to maximize their dependent positions, just like quarterbacks are dependent positions, okay? So that is 100% a fact. The other reality is Arizona, more than likely, is not going to be allocating significant amounts of money to a quarterback for a decent amount of years now. And so we can overpay, if you want a quotation mark, the running back because he's a really good football player. And the only way that Arizona is going to improve is adding really good football players. I would rather pay a little bit of premium on a back than just say, okay, we're going to go draft an offensive lineman. That might be a good player, but guess what? He's cheaper in comparison to all the other positions. It's outrageous talk. It's outrageous talk.
Not outrageous talk. The last running back drafted in the top 10 that won the Super Bowl with the team that drafted him was Reggie Bush, who was drafted 20 years ago. That's not a coincidence. The system
You're not
changed.
talking about winning the Super Bowl, Grass. You're the third pick. You stink.
Is winning the Super Bowl not the goal? I thought that was the goal.
No,
if you're not trying to win a championship,
the starting point for the
goal.
The starting point goal for the Cardinals has to become getting better. We can live in a world where we want to win championships. That sounds great. They got to get better. They got to become a better football team before we ever talk about winning the Super Bowl.
All right.
All right, and some
context. I would end with this one, Kev, just real quick. They solve all this debate by just punting on the pick and trading back and finding someone who's willing to do it. And that might be what we end up doing. And that might be how this ends up being. And all this is a great debate for another time. Jeremiah Love might go to a different destination that is more built to win, and the Cardinals might be able to kick this can down the road.
And you know who that could be? That could be 2 picks later with the Giants. And that would be incredible because they have a quarterback in Jackson Dart. Coming up, D and Big D, it stands for drama.